Sanibonani babukeli sesifikile thina nentandokazi yohlelo lenu ilungelo lakho it's your right uhlelo ke mbukeli olulethela konke ukuthinta nina phela namalungelo enu njengabathengi la eningizimu Afrika uhlelo lomajali uNhlanhlo uNonhlanhla uAlicia ngithi ke mina ngumashongololo kazikhali mbukeli 0117140669 alternatively 7140670 those are the magic numbers ngizoyivula ingcingo la e-studio emva kwekhefu ungasithinta ku consumer@sabc.co.za that's our email address kanti futhi siyatholakala on our social media platforms. Now, mbukeli kule yinkhathi ke manje ezinzima emnothweni lapho phela singabathengi sithole kanzima kakhulu nasemaphaketheni okufundisa phela izingane kungumthwalo phela onzima kwimindeni eminingi. Kungakho ke abaningi bebona ukuthi kuyasiza phela ukuthi bathathe ama policy plan lawa ke amelene nokuthi afundisa izingane phecelezi educational plans ngesikhathi phela esifanele. Kodwa ke ngabe siza kanjani ke futhi yiziphi izinto ke ekumele uzazi ngaphambi kokuthi phela uyithenge lama policy noma lama plan. Ake siza ukuthi ababukeli bathini ngabe niyayazi nina lama policy plans nama policies ake sizuthi nithini emgaqweni.
Ziyanceda ngoba sometimes njengamanje insuku zalamhlanje i-education iyabiza kakhulu. So especially thina abantu esisebenza uthola ukuthi imali yokuthi uhambise umntana esikoleni awunayo kodwa ngazo lezi policies uyakwazi ukuthi umntwana aye esikoleni azafike ekugcineni.
No, mina I think iyasiza kakhulu sisi because sometimes siyahluleka ukusave imali for abantwana bethu. Then nakufika isikhathi ukuthi umntwana aye e-tertiary ukuthi awona mali kumele uqale phasi futhi wenza ama plan ukuthi wenze imali. So I think iyasiza kakhulu.
I actually think it depends on the financial institution one is applying through because there are some that are bogus.
But the policies and everything, yeah, in a way you don't get a return of investment back because in a way like in a long period you won't get your money back because the return investment are too low.
It's not enough money that we are getting, but at the end of the day, personally, a lot of us, we don't save enough for the education, for the end day when the children finish school going for tertiary. So for me, I think it's wise for one to have those educational plan.
I feel that they can tell and notify parents as the policy payers in advance, you know, do follow-ups and tell us, okay guys, you know what, you need to do this, you need to do that, in order to have enough money. Say if your son or daughter goes to tertiary, varsity, whatever, and a lot of our children is also studying abroad, there always comes a shortfall.
Mina ngokubona kwami ngibona ngathi kubalelekile ukuthi lama policy abe khona vele and abantu bawajoine because uthola ukuthi income yomuntu incane ukuthi umuntu angasevela yona ukuthi akwazi ukuhambisa umntana wakhe esikolweni mesikhathi sifika. Sometimes mawuthi uyasave uthola ukuthi uphinde uyithathe in case of emergency uyisebenzise umntana wakho makaphasi matric angana ne-start awuna nemali yokuregister umntwana.
Listen nginayo educational plan, but I'm not sure after e-matric, after my son has completed e-matric, I'm not sure whether it's going to help me or what, because I haven't even received any update to how much do I have now in my account. So I just want to know whether it will help me or it won't help me, but I'm not sure. It's a risk that I'm taking.
Very interesting indeed. Manje ke mbukeli ukhuluma abanzi phela ngokuba semqoka ukuthi phela ulungiselele imfundo yeingane zakho kusesenesikhathi esanele. Asamkele uGerald Mwandiyambira yena ke niyamazi niyamkhumbula he's a financial expert akahambi yedwa uhamba nensizwa uBut John Manyike yena ke he's the head of financial education khona lapha Old Mutual. Zinsizwa, welcome back to the show. It's 2023. Welcome to the show. Baba Manyike asiqale ngawo. Welcome baba kunjani?
Siyabonga baba. Angithi bathi i-Valentine idlulile mara we can still say compliments of the new year.
Welcome Gerald. How are the piglets doing?
Piglets are growing and growing, growing. You need lots of them, yeah.
All right, so gentlemen, today we're talking about educational plans. And maybe let's start here, Gerald, now Babu Manyike. I mean, we've just seen a very interesting piece here about different reviews. And interesting, I must say, what impressed me was, one, none of those people said they don't know that these things actually exist. So at least maybe we're getting over a threshold somewhere. But what do you think about those views, Gerald? Do they actually know what the actual aim and point of taking these policies or plans is all about?
I think there's a threshold which has been reached. As Ubaba Manyike would say, the financial education is getting home.
Yes,
However, finally. But you need to understand that in order to reach a goal, you need to have a target set from the beginning. And out of all those comments which we saw, the one thing which was clear and very apparent is that the financial planner or advisor who sat with those people did not understand what they wanted at the end. Therefore, you always have a shortfall if you just save and say, I've got a policy. An education policy is not like a funeral plan, which has a set amount, and when an event happens, it pays. An education policy is set by you. And I'm going to share some of those numbers in a bit where people need to understand how much money is involved. And if you know what you're aiming for, then you know whether or not there'll be a shortfall. The other thing which came through was we haven't had updates.
Exactly.
No one has come back to me. And again, it speaks to us as consumers needing to understand that when we sit down with a financial planning professional, if they don't see you every year, find someone who will. Because if you don't, you end up with those shortfalls where, you know, you did the right thing and you're frustrated.
But John?
No, iqiniso leyo. Ma ungahlangani ne-financial advisor yakho every year, kusho ukuthi une-long distance relationship ne-financial advisor yakho. So, and because kumele wazi ukuthi ngibeke malini, and is it enough? Because the education iyabiza, and it's not going to be cheap. Ma ubheke normal inflation, kwamanje ihlale just over 7%.
Yeah.
Mara inflation ye-education is more than 7%. The last time being checked, it was over 9%.
Yeah.
In the past 10 years or so, if une-inflation ye-education ihamba ku-9%, bese in normal inflation it is 7, sometimes iba below 6%. Sho ukuthi even if uthi ubeka imali, if imali uyibekayo ayidluli le inflation ye-education, akuna value lapho, because 100 rand yanamhlanje ne-100 rand ye-10 years from now is not the same amount.
Yeah. But John, maybe let's clarify something, because even when I was doing research here, it always, lamagama, they come in conjunction with each other. Ayalandelana to educational policies or ama plans. So let's understand the difference between these two. Abantu understand which one is a plan, which one is a policy, and how does each one work?
It's that's just marketing conventions. So depending on which company you're talking to, some people like to call them plans, some people like to call them policies.
Okay.
But the most important thing when you're talking education planning or education preparation, know the numbers.
Yeah.
Here are some of the numbers. In order to prepare for varsity, for a child who's born today, which is in 18 years' time, okay, that child will probably need 40,000 per year for university and 40,000 for accommodation. So I'm working with a number of 80,000 rand. In 18 years' time, annual inflation is 10%, I put here. Because the inflation rate for education is about 10%. Okay? And I've put an annual return. That's also important. When you speak to your financial planner, he must also give you a return, which is good. So ask for a 10% return as well. Number of years enrolled. For 4 years preparation, I need 2,064,286 rand for a child who's going to pay cash for varsity at today's value.
Wow.
That's in 18 years' time. If you're someone who's taking an education policy for a child who's starting grade 1 in 6 years' time and saying, I want to be a good parent, I want to save for my child's primary school education, you need to save about 40,000 for a good private school, about 3,000 a month, you know? That's 40,000. And you say, I'm going to pay for 7 years. I need to save 672,000 before grade 1. Now, here's where it gets more important. Those numbers need to be married to what you need to do, Alicia, to reach that goal. Now, for you to save that 672,000 to pay for all your child's entire primary education for a child born today, you need to save 6,000. A month.
A month.
Just that.
And,
but you're paying forward. But that's important. Okay? So that's the sacrifice that's involved. But if you do 6,852 rand now at 10% return, your entire child's primary school is sorted. But you sacrifice 6,000. And the nice thing about 6,000, it doesn't change. This is, I haven't inflation adjusted it. It basically is 6,000 at a flat rate for the varsity. it's less. It's 3,000 rand, 3.8. So when you take out your education plan for a child who's going to varsity in 18 years' time, pay 3.8. Because 3.8 in 5 years' time will be the amount you pay for takeaway.
Wow.
Okay? But if you don't know these numbers, you end up having that shortfall because umuntu is going to take out an education policy and say, I'm paying 500. And I'm doing very well, 500.
And then ahlale phansi, and they're not even going to do any follow-ups. Because, but John, sibonile in the inside as well, people are saying they are putting some money away for their education, yabantwana, but there's just not enough money to save. And I don't know how long we're going to talk and make reference to the fact that abantu have lost imsebenzi due to COVID, due to many issues like the economy, like eMzansi. But at which point do you think as a nation, a majority abantu that necessarily need to save because siyabona NSFAS kunenkinga, ama student loans, ama lokuzana, it's exorbitant amounts abantwana kumele bayikhokha. Abanye we talking now students are financially excluded because abakhokhile for ama lokuzana, ama studies wabo from the previous years. So at which point are we going to get to a point where we're going to be like ikhona imali engingayisave? And if you can't make 6,000 rand, then John wenza njani?
Uyabona lento sikhuluma manje ibaleke njenge load shedding. Khuluma iqiniso. Because ukuthi sifike la sikhona manje. Someone 10, 20 years ago should have thought ukuthi singaba nalenkinga la if we don't prepare.
Exactly.
Given the education situation esibhekana nayo, it's the same. The reason sibe ne fees must fall movement, the youth bayibhekile lento le bathi these numbers azihlangani. And it's not fair ukuthi umntwana athi focus ku matric and work hard bakumele esikoleni abazali abanayo imali, and then they turn to government to say, what are you going to do? There has to be free tertiary education. This is why sagcina sabana le violence and everything. But you have to understand the cry of our youth. Ngoba they are looking at these numbers. Remember, at that level, these are young intellectuals.
Yes.
You know, so you have to appreciate the pain of our young people. Maba formal movement. So we need to focus on this thing.
Okay, but John, ngiyakuzwa impela ke usho ukuthi kumele nje kuphindelwe emuva back to the drawing board. Ibonakale ngempela because clearly it hasn't achieved lento ebe intend ukuthi yenze. All the fees must fall and all the hard work eyafakwa amanye ama students because it looks like we're back to square one now. Mbukela ungasithinta la e-studio, we're coming back sikhuluma ngama educational policies nama plans esisiza ukuthi wena ukwazi ukuthi usavele imfundo yabantwana bakho. We back shortly after this ungayindawo. Mbukeli, welcome back to Ilungelo Lakho la ku SABC 1 eMzansi for sure. Namhlanje ke Mbukeli sikhuluma ngama educational plans ukuthi iyiphi wena mhlambe into ongayenza ukuthi uthathe imali uyibeke towards the education yomntana wakho, be it primary, be it high school, be it varsity. Into esiyazi ukuthi imfundo manje ephakeme engathi isimba eqolo kakhulu. 011 714 0669 noma 714 0670. Let's go to our lines. We do have Bishop on the line. Bishop Mgomezulu on the line from KZN. Bishop, siyakwamukela ohlelweni baba, siyakwamukela kakhulu. Singakusiza kanjani umbuzo noma umbono?
Bishop, siyakwamukela ohlelweni baba, siyakwamukela kakhulu.
Bishop, ngicela ungcimela i-TV, ngiyazizwa lapho khona ngizokuzwa kahle.
Okay, akuzizwe.
Ngiyabonga baba. Uyangizwa ke baba?
Ngiyakuzwa.
Ngiyakuzwa nsizwa, yebo. Qhubeka ke baba, uthi wena singakusiza kanjani namhlanje?
No, ngibona ngithanda lento ukuthi izingane zibekelwe imali ukuthi ukwazi ukuba covered ngazo, ngoba okwesibili imali ayihleli ikhona njalo. Ngoba ingaphezi ikhona njalo imali ukuthi abantwana babekele kuyakhona abantwana bakho noma sowufikela la kwisigaba khona uthola ukuthi uyahluleka ukuthi ukhona ukubaqhubeza, uthola ukuthi kukhona umgodlo obabekele khona bazokwazi ukuthi basebenzise wona. Ngamanye amazwi lento mengiyibuka la ku-TV ngibona ibaluleke kakhulu ngendlela exabile ukuthi ngakhona ukusiza ikhona ukusiza nabanye abantu abanganawo amandla ngoba phela sithiwe ngokufana.
Siyabonga kakhulu Bishop ngalombono. I mean Bishop is quite in the know. Uthi yena he fully supports this measure ukuthi I mean at least we conscientizing abantu ukuthi there are options. Ungavani uhlale ulinde umntana aqeda umatric and then you starting to say hey ngizolinda ama results ngibone ukuthi angathola in uxhaso kanjani. So Gerald, I mean maybe going on about this, how much awareness do you think is out there for normal South Africans and ama consumers or people with kids, ama parents ukuthi bazi ukuthi there's ama options where you can actually get a policy noma educational plan that can actually help you in the long run ukuthi usavele for education yabantwana bakho?
Look, I think we're starting to get there.
Yeah.
But as you said, there are different options.
Yeah.
If you want to prepare your child for university, you can either help them whilst they're still in primary or high school to get a scholarship through sports, through music, through something.
Yeah.
So scholarship is one route of funding your tertiary education.
Yes.
The second route is not everyone can be on campus. Not everyone needs to be on campus. So some people are very good at online learning. UNISA, ask how many people have got UNISA degrees. Most of them have never met their colleagues in the same cohort. So you need to actually think of that as an option. And thirdly, you must also realize that different universities have different fee structures. So the top universities are the ones you're looking at about 40,000 Rand a year, 40, 50,000, excluding accommodation. And then obviously you can get some universities which come down to about 20, 25,000. So plan ahead in terms of where will your child want to go for university. The bottom line is, yes, those numbers I explained are high.
Yes.
But they're for the top universities. So you can actually be in a situation where you save less, which means that the burden might not be fully accounted for in terms of preparation, funding, but you at least are halfway there and you can top it up with a scholarship or the NASPASs, or we don't know how things will evolve, supplement it somehow. But knowing the number is the most important thing, because it means as your career progresses, you're also earning more. So maybe although you started by saving, you know, 2,000, 1,000 a month, when you knew it would have been 3,000, as you earn more, you top it up and you catch up. The most important thing is know the numbers. It's like people are dreaming of driving a car, but when you ask them how much does a car cost, no one knows. And that's the problem with university and tertiary education. Most people are ignorant to the fact that it costs at least 40,000 Rand currently a year, which means that if you want to send your child to university, make that happen. And if you can qualify for NSFAS, great, but there's a whole lot of people who don't. And those are the ones we need to worry about in saying, do they have an education plan? Do they have a policy? And that's where, you know, the likes of financial planners come and help and can help you prepare. Remember, you've got 18 years to make this target. So don't panic, rather get started.
And get started when, John? Like, when should one make the conscious decision? Yoguthi ngiyaqala namhlanje ngiya-invest into my child's education. And ngiyamuzwa Gerald uthi there's obviously those children that don't need to be on campus, that are part of laba excluded basically financially. How do we then get them, or ama guardians wabo or their parents, to then be part of this initiative? Ukuthi qalani nicabange kuse early, because you guys nina nizosokola kakhulu in the long run.
That's true. Into eqala ukuthi uqala nini. The day udokotela athi ukhulelwe, qala ukuseva ngaleso sikhathi.
Angibhekile ama nappies kanti namabisi ngaleso sikhathi.
And part of preparation also means ukuthi nawe njengomzali, you need to be involved in terms of your career guidance. Umntwana wakho ukuthi interest yakhe yini, nama subjects awathathayo. Manje sikhuluma ngama scholarship, ama bursary, NSFAS. It's important as well ukuthi nawe ama subjects wathathayo as a learner yini, because if you take more your science and accounting subjects, ama chances yokuthi uzothola i-bursary or i-scholarship are better compared to umntwana oyenza ama course just ukuthi ngiphasile nje ukuthi hayi sengiqedile i-matric. Nalokho kubalekile ke.
Okay. All right. And then maybe, Gerald, let's talk about this. When you say that you're starting to save, I know you always make the example with the piglets and stuff, but one of the people that were on our Vox Pops, they said, there's not enough money to save. What happens when you cannot reach that threshold, 6,000 rand that you made an example of, in order to invest towards that 18-year period?
Okay, so the 6,000 was including tertiary and accommodation. So the actual tertiary education probably is 3. The bottom line is, as Ubra John is saying, start when you know you're pregnant.
Yeah.
And even if you're wiser, start saving for the unborn child. You know, you almost have to have that prophetic view of, I am going to conceive, I am preparing. Because the sooner you start, the better. And also, it's quite simple. On birthdays, tell people, don't bring toys here. Don't bring things which are going to last for 2 months. Bring cash. This is the education policy account number. You are the godparent. Whenever you get money, drop money there. Instead of bringing toys, which are important, by the way, but not 100 toys, maybe 50 toys, you know, the other 50, bring them in cash. And then we get into that habit of planning ahead. Alelungu. Umntwana, when they are born, they've got a tax-free savings account. And when people are giving gifts, they just drop money into that account. We grew up in a similar environment. I think we had a passbook for the post office, and we'd see every birthday, I shy $50 in Zim or $20 when it was still real money. And at the end of the day, you'd be proud of that. We need to, it's also part of that financial education. Children need to start also being part of that journey to realize that their education in the future needs to be prepared for. And if we start having that conversation, yes, for someone who's a security guard or a fuel attendant, it might be hard financially, but that's why NSFAS is there. NSFAS covers those people where there is a genuine affordability reason. The ones we worry about is that so-called, that middle group.
Gerald, let me take a caller quickly. Angaze ahambe lapha Ntshantsa eKomane. Thank you so much for staying on the line. Sakwamukela ohlelweni. Singakusiza kanjani namhlanje?
Ngibona sithi Alicia.
Ndiphilile sisi njani?
Ndiyaphila khona kunjani?
Ndiphilile sisi Ntshantsa.
Ndifuna nje ukhomenta nami kule nto ye-educator.
Ewe mama.
Nami ndike ndanayo i-policy for umntwana ne.
Okay.
Ndithatha u-educator the company ke nto yethu ibiza ngegama.
Okay.
But into eyenzekayo kule nto kuba ke ungacebiseki kakuhle from kulo muntu ukonzisa ipolicy ne-advisors ezi. Then ndifumanisa uba kwi-first year yomntwana ne ndafuna imali, but imali endayifumanayo yayi-14,000.
Okay.
So ndafumanisa ukuthi imali it's less. Then ke ngoku ndaqonda uba hey, i-option endinayo ingathi next time xa ndisenza ngcono ndenze i-investment, because kaloku bendiplana mna yokuba ndizawufumana imali for mhlawumbi masithi ko-40 at least. But kodwa hayi into endiyifumanayo yi-loan, then not ndifumane imali endizayibhatala kuba izawunida funeka ibe ne-maturity date yalaa nyaka, but umntana ufumanisa uba uye eyunivesithi before laa nyaka. So akakwazi ke ngoku umntana uyifumana imali yethu, afumana 14,000 as a loan. Then ndaphinda, but ufumanisa uba ngoku umntana segqibile ufunda khona uzawufumana imalana nje encane segqibile.
Okay.
So nyani ke i-advice ngase nyani umntu xa isenziwa kama ndachuza for another time that let me take i-investment, because investment iyakhula uyabona. So ufumanisa uba inayo laa nto kuthiwa yi-aim, inento kuthiwa yi-aim ye-inflation management, but still ndabona uba hayi ayireyizekanga. Maybe it's because ke kwakubekeka imali encane ke ngelo xesha, but zange u-advise ngayo, uyawuchuza wena the best imali ezi amount ezazikhona.
Sisintshantshi ubusubhadala ixesha elingakanani uze ufumana le mali encinci, resulting in you having to go take a loan? Ububhadala malini monthly and ixesha elingakanani?
Umntana bese-primary, maybe from mhlawumbi wayesephaa ko-grade 4.
Ewe, so ubusayivela i-high school wena okanye i-varsity?
Ndandisenzela for i-varsity.
Okay, and then xa ufika phaa bathe baza kunikeza malini, because I'm sure ububhadala yonke le minyaka?
When ndibhatala yonke iminyaka, but ndifumanisa uba hayi, because mna kaloku ngexesha ndicinga ndizenzela imali ezaba noko for i-university at least i-first year ikwazi ayifumana imali enkulu.
Yo.
But ke ngoku kwathiwa hayi ufumana i-loan then uzawuphinda ke ngoku komnye unyaka but azandiphinde ndiyifumane ke uba ndiyifumana ngokusegqibile
Yo.
esapretha laa loan from kulaa mali yam bendiyi-investa bendiyosori bendiyibeka for umntwana.
Yo, siyabonga sisintshantshya uba usivisa uvo lakho ne. Mbukeli nawe, can you
Thank you.
please do give us a call? We really want to hear your stories because ngempela that is when we actually start taking notice. Uyasho usisi ukuthi yena ube nenkinga kakhulu. Asithathe ikhefu siyabuya emva kwalo. Mbukeli udaba lethu lanamhlanje ama-education policy noma ama-plans. Imali ke mbukeli lo okwazi ukuthi uyithathe wena uloku uyifaka esikhwameni somntwana ukuthi akwazi ukuthi afunde phela uma esefika either evarsity noma e-high school noma e-primary school. Kuyasho-ke kucaca kuwena ukuthi wena ufuna uqala nini ukuthi usavele lo mntwana. My guest today ubut Gerald and John. He is our in-house financial expert alongside enye expert yethu ubut John Manyike. He is the head of financial education khona lapha ya e-Old Mutual. Ngasifonela ke abantu bakithi 0117140669 alternatively 7140670. All right, so uyamuzwa usisi Gerald ukuthi what do you think could have happened there?
Look, there's a number of things that could have happened. The first thing we might need to understand, if you're watching the show, I'm referring to 2 million rand needed in 18 years' time.
Yes.
But it's actually the equivalent of 320,000 rand today. It's because 1 rand today is not the same as it will be in 18 years' time. Just like a loaf of bread in South Africa in 1985 was 1 rand. But now that same loaf is 20 rand. So we need to put things into context. When I'm talking the future value, it's always more. So one thing which could have happened is that they sat down with a planner who was thinking numbers of today. If you tell an advisor that I want to save 40,000 rand, he will help you save 40,000 rand. And it's for my son's education because university is 40,000 rand.
Today?
Today. In 18 years' time, when that same person gives you 40,000 rand, you'll be very upset. That's true. Because it's not the same money. So it's very important when you're speaking to your financial planner or advisor, they must always explain, you must always understand and explain to them that I want the equivalent of today's money in the future. It's quite possible that when she started that child in grade 4, university was 14,000 a year. It was, probably, if you look back. But now, 18 years later, she's complaining and upset that she got only 14,000. But actually, that could have been her actual goal from the beginning. So there's a lot of things which could have happened there. The other thing which could have happened is most people, because of affordability, simply say to their financial planner, you know, I understand I need to be saving 2,000, 3,000, but I can't afford it. So let me start with 1. But because they don't upgrade along the way, even though they're earning more, they keep saving less than would be required. So all these are very important. Numbers don't lie. When you sit down with a planner, always explain to them the equivalent of today's value. Make sure you sign it on the piece of paper that they are talking future value equivalent to today. Otherwise, if you say 40,000, you're going to get 40,000.
But then, but John, doesn't it accrue interest that is the mal? Because it says like they can even go and withdraw. I think Gerald Dukotlo we mentioned that because they know they still have access to my emergencies. Baphinde bangayi replace bayifune ukuthi futhi bayithole ise isamba kanjalo when they actually go and withdraw.
So 2 things. One, ueda kulento uBujarat bakakhuluma ngayo. Mawukhuluma ne-advisor yakho izokubuza ukuthi le amount ozoyibeka every month ufuna siyilinke ku-inflation na ukuthi every year ikhuphuke in line ne-inflation. Abantu abaningi mababheka le scorecard or the sliding scale uzothi no, in 5 years time ngeke ngi-afford it, so ngicela ingakhuphuki every month. The problem with education or investment plan that doesn't have an annual increase in line inflation is that ibuyala kule point bakayibeka ukuthi you're saving 40,000 in today's terms, but in 20 years or 18 years time 40,000 has got a different value. It might be as good as 5,000 rand. The second thing ile yama partial withdrawal ukuthi customer liyakhona ukuya ku financial institution ukuthi hey nginenkinga manje ngicela ukuyi-withdraw. Mara if you don't have a clear plan and you don't stay the course as umzali ukuthi ngibekela umntana le mali hayi ukuthi ubuyele lapha uyothatha uyibhubhudle the same money because mhlambe kune outing niyakuphi hey kumnandi lapha and so on kuba inkinga because even the financial habits of abazali are also contributing with rather ngiphushe imoto expensive kakhulu ngihambe ngama German cars mara umntwana angikhona ukumsavela just because ngaphandle bazothi no I'm doing well ngoba ngihamba ngalama German cars.
Bakwethu kuthiwa let's prioritize imfundo yabantwana is what I'm getting from ama gentlemen namhlanje. Sisinomsa all the way Boksburg sakwamukela sicela umbuzo noma umbono. Sisinomsa ngicela wehlisa iTV yakho kunjani?
Ngiyaphila ninjani?
Ngiyaphila Sisinomsa. Usungehlisa iTV ngisazizwa lapho kwi background ngeke ngikuze ukuthi uthini.
Okay, ngikweni TV.
Yebo mangicela uyehlise nje uzozibona mase ngirepeata kusasa uzozizwa futhi.
Okay.
Okay, ngiyakuzwa Ntokazi ungaqhubeka ke nombuzo noma umbono ma.
Okay. Umbono okay, isinqale ngami.
Yebo ma.
Mina when I completed matric I didn't understand. Ama parents ami with hawana mali. Ngaphatheka kabi kakhulu. And then I asked myself, but you've been seeing me pastor. Standard 9, standard 10, why ngazange ningibekele imali aside? That's the first thing. But secondly, again, nami ngiyavumelana nalo mbono kaSisintshantsha. Mina I did put aside for my daughter imali, but I think I started very late when she was already 8 years old. My beggar for 10 years, I wasn't happy eventually because I think I got 15,000.
Okay.
And so when eventually she had to go to UJ. But then fortunately, then I found another better job that could make me to afford it. But yeah, the previous caller who said, I'm a financial advisor. Now, finally, I advise abantu accordingly.
Siyabonga kakhulu.
In the future, yeah.
Siyabonga kakhulu Sisinomsa siyabonga kakhulu Ntokazi nawe mangabe ufana no Sisinomsa noma uSisintshantsa ungasifonela lana e-studio nazi inamba lapho on your screens. You can find us on email sikhona futhi across all our social media platforms. Back shortly after this ilungelo lakho educational financial plans. Welcome back usabheka ilungelo lakho la kumamba phambili SABC1 eMzansi for sure uhleli noMajali ehamba nezinsizwa Gerald and John Manyike financial expert nobhuti uJohn Manyike. He's the head of financial education at Old Mutual. Now John, I mean let's talk about this. Siyazusisi has a very valid point and I think we were actually discussing this thing of ukuthi a lot of kids maybe phuma esikoleni they do not like uzoblame abani if your parents have not taken initiative ukuthi basave imali for your education. So uthi wayithola ekuleso simo but what we liked is that yena she made a conscious decision ukuthi it's not going to happen to her nomntana wakhe and she went about and sought options. So let's talk about these options. Imaphi lama institutions anikeza abantu lama options amalokuza nama financial education plans.
So uyakhona ukukhuluma nama financial institution or mhlambe ama banks ubabuze ubatshele ukuthi ufuna ukubeka imali for umntwana but njengoba Gerald ashilo ukuthi you need to be thinking long term ukuthi university degree in 10 years or 18 years from now izoba malini. If you find ukuthi no it will be 2 million, don't say ngicela ukubeka imali ngifuna ukuthi at least kube ne 40,000 ngoba by that time kuzoba nenkinga. But I think one way of handling it mawukhuluma ne financial advisor yakho umbuze ukuthi ikhona na i-option ukuthi ngingarely kulama monthly contributions yabo 200 rand ngoba kahle kahle 200 rand ye stationary to be honest. Umbuze ukuthi mangithola ibonus ngakhona ukuyilahlela lapho na because the problem is that abathola ibonus bacanga ukuthi it's just an extra money, it's not doesn't form part of the income ngobe extra. Ungabheki ibonus as an extra income, it's not an extra income, it's still part, it should form part of i-financial plan yakho nayo ungayifaka lapho. That's the one way ukuthi abazali can afford to pay for children's education. From time to time sacrifice ufake lump sum ungarely kulama 200 rand per month mara ngapha ukhona ukuthenga i-6 pack every month without fail.
Utshelwana Praji, I mean, what can children do? Students that know ukuthi abazali babo are financially inept, angeke bakhona ukuthi babayise ema-varsity. These are kids that are not averaging i-pass mark ezobatholela ama-bursaries, nani. These are kids that are barely scratching by ukuthi nje just for ukuthi let's achieve what we need to achieve sisesikoleni. What can they do, Bona, to take initiative in their own education? Can they approach financial institutions by themselves?
Look, a child is raised, and actually your parents are stewards of that child's life.
Yeah.
So all you can do is, if you are knowing that there's children in your family, have these discussions openly. Money should no longer be taboo. When you're having your Christmas function and you're watching Ngani playing, ask, have you prepared for Ubanibani's university? I've got a financial planner. One thing, let's normalize having financial advisors and planners in our lives. Let's normalize seeing them every year, because as you see them every year, they'll give you a chart and you can see those nice pretty lines going up, 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 or sometimes down, down, down. But when they're going down, 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 then you phone the next financial advisor and say, no, this one, I need someone who goes up, up, up. But let's normalize financial advice. One of the problems we have is we have a lot of people who take the first step, but they don't walk the journey. The first step is getting the policy. The journey is every year calling your financial planner. What's going on? How are things going? Are we on track? If that person has moved on, find someone else to replace them who can walk the next step and the next step. And most importantly, life happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
You need a life policy. The ultimate education policy is also a life policy. Because if I pass away, my children who are depending on my payments for my education plan will lose. So when you talk education policy with your financial advisor or planner, also include the life component of what happens if I die, or if I'm disabled, or I'm unable to continue paying for this policy. Because there are options which are then presented to you to say, if you die, we can have a life component there. If you're disabled, we can have a life policy component there. If you lose your income, maybe we can include some sort of income protection or, contribution waiver, But these are conversations that can only be had when you are sitting with the person.
Okay. All right. Imapu John, I guess that's a careful to look, and then you're going to wrap up with your answer. Very interesting, Gerald, because I wanted to find out, especially because, as you said, life happens. What happens if lo muntu maintain police useshonile? What happens gumntana education yake kubanjani? Let's take our final break. We're back shortly after this. It's our final segment. Sikhuluma ngama-educational plans noma ama-policy. My guest, Gerald and John Manyike, a financial expert alongside Insizwa evela lapha Old Mutual. He's the head of financial education. Khuluma ngaye Insizwa John Manyike. So John, you wanted to say something in relation to ukuthi besikhuluma ngani make sure nobazali uyasho Gerald ukuthi kubalekile ukuthi i-policy is a blanket to all these things, because bengifuna ubuza ukuthi what are other alternatives if we told her when ukuthi awukhona ukuthi uhambe in a straight route, like we were saying ukuthi ungabu eda from another piggy bank into this one piggy bank.
No, ngijabule kakhulu ukuthi at least uyibekile le should you die ngoba iphuma ngimi, because mangithi masengithi should you die bazothi sengiyathengisa. Yeah, so uyibeke kahle lapha. But khona just two things mhlambe from my side ukuvala ukuthi number one, ungachooseli umntana i-career ukuthi ayelande enye i-career. And it doesn't mean that wonke ama-students mele aye ku-university. Kuna-TVET college where umntana can study boiler making, electrician, plumbing, and so on and so forth.
Skills.
Which are cheaper, but these are important skills for the country. And abantu banjalo yibo bathola imisebenzi. Because baningi abantwana abanama-degrees mara umsebenzi awukaveli.
Awuyibambe lapho-ke Mr. Manyike, ngithatha untombi isintombi yangakithi eThekwini. Sisintombi esedurban, you are last caller namhlanje ntokazi, singakusiza kanjani?
Ngiyabonga kakhulu Alicia ukuthi ngithole ithuba. Nginenkinga concerning i-life policy yomntwana, i-educational plan yomntwana.
Yebo. I-life policy noma i-education
washona.
Yebo sis.
Ngalandela ke uma ngifika le ekade investe khona imali bathi bafuna umntwana abe na 18 years.
Yeah.
wawureach umntana u-18 years bathi cha abasadingi manje 18 years sebedinga ukuthi aphathe ama-results aka-matric ukuthi nawini. Alicia ngikutshela ngomntana ohamba esikoleni 100 ebe enemali ekuthiwa yayibekiwe ye-educational plan ngoba sekufuneka ama-results aka-matric. Angisakwazi ukuzona okufanele ngikwenze because ngilandelile isteps umntwana uthi akasafuna ukukhuluma nami lo owaye-advise usefuna umntana ona-18. We-understand umntana ona-18 obuye emakhaya ukuthi uma kukhulunywa ngey'ndaba zey'mali uyadideka uvela be-confused bangikhehlise mina bafuna ukukhuluma nomntwana. Umntwana mengibuya ukhulume ndaba mama mina ngizwa ngale nto abade bengitshela yona. Uyabona nje angisazi ukuthi kokuzona kuphi.
Okay sisi Ntomkayi sengicela ulalele lapho Ntokazi kumabona kude sibone ukuthi singakucebisa kanjani. I hope usenayo imininingwane yalo bhuti obeyilokhuza ne-financial advisor yakho, because I think ubhuti Gerald can tell you how does she deal with a financial advisor that is basically ignoring her calls. Baqale bathi umntana because the father passed away and he was contributing kwathi umntana needs to be 18. When the child turned 18 kwathiwa now she needs to have the matric results. So she went back with the matric results and now there's no answer.
Okay. So firstly there's a phase ombudsman.
Yeah.
When you have a problem with any financial advisor in South Africa, Google phase ombudsman, report them.
Okay.
You can get redress there. FSCA, Financial Sector Conduct Authority, also find out who the FSP is, the company, who they represented, are they doing a good service? Because they shouldn't be in that situation. But also understand when you take out your policy or plan, understand the terms and conditions. Sometimes a policy will only pay at a certain point in the future. And others are designed to provide annual payments. So choose wisely, but let's learn today's messages. Let's normalize getting a financial advisor or financial planner. Bring them into part of your family, meet them every year. It's the best thing you can do for your children's education.
Where do we meet these financial advisors and planners who are registered that we can obviously complain about, Gerald? Because it seems like people are taking people for a ride, because it seems like they're giving them half the information but not giving them totally yonke into ekumele bayazi.
Visit your favorite bank or insurance company. Shop around. Get someone who speaks your language, in terms of literally speaks your language so you understand each other. Shop around. And also there's a website called letsplan.co.za, letsplan.co.za. At least there you'll get the real professionals where you might have to pay a fee. But if you can't pay a fee, simply visit your bank or insurance company. They should be able to get you someone who can help you.
But John, I mean, maybe let's find out from you. What do you think are some of the biggest and most common mistakes abantu abawenzayo in taking lama education plans nama police?
I think okuningi sikhulumile ngakho ngifuna ukumention le yekuthi mawuthatha le education policy or investment plan or any policy kumele unominate i-beneficiary.
Okay.
Kodwa ma unominate i-beneficiary unominate umntwana as i-beneficiary. Umntwana before atena at the age of 18 angeke akhona ukusayinela. So lento siyizwayo kungayenzeka ukuthi khona enye part esingayizwanga kahle ngoba uyabona uzwile ukuthi ubaba washona. The chances are mhlambe umntwana bekuyi-beneficiary, and for you to be a guardian mele produce ama document and so on, but make sure you nominate a beneficiary.
Okay. And then in this instance, when Gerald, is there anything else angayenza besides obviously phoning the ombudsman? Abatshela ukuthi this is the situation.
That's the only thing. Phone the ombudsman or phone the insurance company or bank involved.
Oh, okay.
That person is got a manager. There's always a bigger fish. So when the small fish doesn't help you, go for the bigger fish.
Okay. And then what do you say, gentlemen, maybe in closing, to those parents who view these education policies as a very poor long-term investment? Let's start with you, John.
It's all about the numbers.
So somebody scared them off ukwenza the right thing, because they're hearing these stories and we know word of mouth actually travels faster than facts.
But ungacabangi ukuthi mawube ku-150 rand a month uzothola million after 5 years. It just doesn't make sense ngoba akusho ukuthi ama-bank baziprintela imali yabo. So numbers are important. So make sure ukuthi ukhuluma nomuntu othembekayo.
Okay. And in closing?
Numbers don't lie. I agree with John. Know your numbers, and also don't plan your child's future, but give them something. So that education plan, if your child decides they are a musician or an artist, still allow them to access that money. Make the effort. And it's okay if you don't reach your goal, but start the journey today. If this episode is something which has touched your life, call that financial planner tomorrow.
Thank you, gentlemen. Upote Gerald and John, a financial expert with us in studio, alongside Upo John Manyike from All Mutual. He's the head of financial education. Besiza ke mbukeli besibonisa ukuthi wena mhlambe iziphi inyathelo ongayithatha ukuthi wenze sure ukuthi ipolicy noma iplan yemfundo yomntwana oyithathayo kumele isebenze kanjani. Siyabonga kakhulu kuyinsizwa. Ungasithola ke ku repeat kusasa ngo11 khona lana. Sizophinde sinibone futhi next week ngohlelo olunye oluza namalungelo and from Majali uMangcolo sine team yami nabo bonke abantu la e-studio simthanda nonke emakhaya. Msale kahle.